Hi everyone, Gibbous here. I just want to thank you for all the support that I received on my last video when I reveal my face and my voice. Well, you asked for it. Here's the full video with my voice. I don't know if any of you have the same experience, but it feels really strange to hear my own voice in the videos. It's always felt odd to me. Maybe it's just me. Now we move on to the part I enjoy the most, the part that motivates me to make these videos, the technical section on Ferrari, including the unveiling of the new car concept and the suits worn by Hamilton and Leclerc, which are truly beautiful. Thanks again for your support. It means a lot to me. The atmosphere around Maranello right now feels less like a traditional pre-season car launch and more like a tactical military operation. By revealing those new race suits for Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc heavy on the white accents and HP blue, Ferrari isn't just selling merchandise. They are signaling a clean break from the traditionalist shackles that have arguably held them back for a decade. It's a bit of a bold punt, really, but my technical read on this is that the bright aesthetic is a psychological front for what is a fundamentally aggressive, almost clinical approach to the 2026 regulations. We are looking at a car that is targeting a 30 kg weight reduction while simultaneously trying to manage a massive 300% increase in electrical energy recovery. That's not an evolution. It's a total architectural reboot of the scooter's DNA. Let's get into the mechanical guts of the 2026 concept, specifically the suspension trend that has the paddock talking. The early renders and the data leaking out of the Haas and Cadillac camp suggest Ferrari is ditching the pull rod flirtations of the past for a push-push layout. Push rods at both the front and rear. Now, in the old world, you'd want a pull rod front for that ultra-low center of gravity, but the 2026 technical landscape changes the math entirely, with the cars becoming 100 mm narrower and the wheelbase shortening to 400 mm. The rear of the car is becoming an absolute nightmare to package. By opting for a push-rod rear, Ferrari is effectively reclaiming about 15 to 18% of the internal volume around the gearbox and crash structure, which is vital for the new cooling requirements. Is brandy making a potato? This packaging efficiency allows Maranello's engineers to mount the dampers and HEV elements higher up, clearing space for the massive 350 kW MGUK and the redesigned transmission required to handle the brutal torque spikes of a 52-50 power split between the IC and the battery. It's a pragmatic move that says Ferrari values mechanical platform stability over marginal aero gains. And in my opinion, that's exactly what you need when your active aerodynamics are constantly shifting your center of pressure mid-corner. If the car is constantly porping or shifting its balance due to the moving wings, you need a suspension that doesn't add to the muddle. Ferrari is betting that a more accessible, adjustable push-rod setup will allow them to find the sweet spot faster than rivals struggling with complex pull-rod geometries. Speaking of the engine, the feedback from the Cadillac filming day at Silverstone is the most significant data point we've had in months. While the media jumped on the ignition delay during the startup, let's be real. A calibration error in a pre-shakedown session is a nothing burger in the grand scheme of things. The real story is the structural integrity of the Ferrari 066612 power unit. I've been tracking their move towards steel cylinders instead of traditional aluminium silicon liners. And it's a heavy-duty choice that looks like a master stroke, because we are moving to 100% sustainable fuels. The combustion pressures and temperatures are going to be significantly more volatile, requiring a block that can handle the heat without warping. Steel offers superior thermal fatigue resistance, allowing Ferrari to run higher compression ratios, rumored to be pushing the 18-to-1 limit without the fear of the block cracking under the strain of a 24-race calendar. If the Cadillac engineers are giving excellent feedback after 200 pure laps of running, it suggests Ferrari's thermal efficiency is already hitting that 50% target that Mercedes used to dominate the early hybrid era. This isn't just about raw horsepower, it's about fuel-to-energy conversion. In a world where you only have 70 kilojoules of fuel per race instead of 100 kWh, every percentage of efficiency is worth roughly 0.1 seconds per lap in pure electrical deployment strategy. The aerodynamics of the SF26 are where things get properly futuristic and frankly a bit daunting for the drivers. We are moving away from fixed aero to a dual-state system, Z mode for high downforce in the corners and X mode for low drag on the straights. My sources suggest Ferrari's active wing system is targeting a switchover latency of less than 200 milliseconds. This is critical because if the aero balance shifts too slowly when the driver opens the flaps, the car becomes a 220 muff pendulum. Ferrari's 2026 concept uses a narrower front wing with simplified end plates to reduce the outwash effect, which in theory makes the car 55% less sensitive to the wake of the car in front, supposedly making overtaking a breeze. By moving to a push-rod front suspension, they've also cleaned up the airflow path to the underfloor venturi entries. It's a high-stakes gamble because they are sacrificing some front-end bite at low speeds to ensure they have a bulletproof drag profile on the straights. When you consider that 2026 cars will have 25% less total downforce than the 24 models, the quality of the air hitting the floor is more important than the quantity. Ferrari's technical office, led by the recently restructured aero department, seems to be prioritizing laminar flow over raw vortex generation, which should make the SF26 a much more predictable car to drive on the limit. Now, let's talk about the Hamilton factor regarding the human-machine interface. You don't hire a 7-time world champion just for his Instagram followers. You hire him for his procedural DNA. I reckon the SF26 cockpit is the most driver-centric environment Ferrari has ever produced, likely featuring a completely redesigned steering wheel interface to manage the increased ERS complexity. Lewis is notorious for wanting a connected front end. He needs to feel the tire's contact patch through his palms. The shift back to push-rod front suspension provides a more direct mechanical path for that feedback compared to the slightly more dampened elastic feel of a pull-rod system. The partnership with Whoop for health monitoring isn't just corporate fluff either. It's a recognition that the 2026 driver is an endurance athlete. In the upcoming era, the drivers will be managing manual energy deployment maps that are 40% more complex than what we have now. If a driver's cognitive load is too high because they're fatigued or stressed, they'll miss the deployment windows and lose 3/10 on a single straight. Ferrari is treating Hamilton and Leclerc like high-performance sensors using biometrics to ensure they are in the flow state when it matters most. It's about ensuring the nut behind the wheel is as optimized as the MGUK. The role of Zhou Guanyu as Cadillac's reserve driver is another clever piece of the puzzle. Having a reserve driver who understands the Ferrari power delivery maps working inside a partner team is basically like having a technical diplomat. He'll be translating the subjective feel of the Ferrari PU into objective data that the Maranello engineers can use to correlate their simulators. Remember, with a 30% reduction in wind tunnel time for the top teams, every lap Cadillac or A does is a free simulation for Ferrari. It gives them a massive statistical advantage in mapping out the reliability of the energy recovery systems, which are the components most likely to go pop in 2026. If we look at the statistics of the 2026 cars, we're looking at a 10% reduction in total weight, but a significant increase in skittishness due to the narrower tires. Ferrari's decision to stick with a pragmatic, stable mechanical platform via their suspension choices suggests they are prioritizing driver confidence over the peak performance. It's a lesson they learned the hard way with the DA cars of the recent past. A car that is 1% slower on paper but 100% predictable is always faster over a race distance. Leclerc's qualifying aggression and Hamilton's race management genius. The SF26 is being built to be a versatile weapon rather than a one-lap wonder. The integration of the HP partnership and the blue-white accents on the suits also hints at a livery that will use functional aesthetics. Expect the SF26 to feature large swathes of exposed carbon fiber, perhaps up to 25% of the surface area, to help hit that ambitious 768 kg minimum weight limit. In the 2026 era, paint is a luxury that teams can't afford. By using the white and blue accents strategically, Ferrari can maintain its brand identity while shaving off those final 300 that could be the difference between pole position and P5. It's a marginal gains philosophy that we haven't seen implemented this strictly at Maranello in decades. Regarding the feedback loop from Cadillac, the Silverstone test confirmed that Ferrari's 2026 turbocharger layout is remarkably stable. There were concerns that the removal of the MGUH, which used to keep the turbo spinning, would lead to massive turbo lag. However, the data suggests Ferrari has developed a proprietary anti-lag software map that uses the MGUK to fill the gaps in power delivery. This results in a power curve that is surprisingly linear for a hybrid. If they've cracked the drivability aspect of the new regs, they'll have a huge advantage at street circuits where throttle modulation is everything. The January 23rd shakedown at Fiorano is going to be the most scrutinized 15 collapses in the history of the Scuderia. Every sensor on that car will be measuring the clipping point of the battery. If Ferrari can demonstrate that their energy management system can deploy for 80% of the lap without derating, running out of juice, the rest of the grid should be very, very worried. Most simulations suggest that 2026 cars will struggle to stay at full power on long straights like Vegas or Baku. But Ferrari's steel and electric combo is aimed at sustained performance rather than short bursts. I also want to touch on the team's internal culture under Fred Vasseur. He's managed to quiet the blame culture and focus the technical department on raw data. The move to skip media duties for the Fiorano shakedown is a clear signal Ferrari is done with the show and is only interested in the go. By giving Hamilton and Leclerc total privacy to find the car's limits on day one, they are accelerating the learning curve by at least 15% before they even arrive in Barcelona. It's a level of focus that is frankly refreshing to see from a team that often gets distracted by its own mythos. Statistically, the 2026 cars will be slower in the corners, roughly 2 to 3 seconds per lap, but they will be absolute rockets on the straights. We are looking at top speeds potentially exceeding 365 km at Monza thanks to the X-mode active aero reducing drag by nearly 30%. Ferrari's historical advantage has often been its straight-line grunt, and the SF26 seems built to reclaim that throne. The Cadillac feedback suggests that the Ferrari IC is particularly punchy in the mid-range, which is exactly where you need the performance when you're exiting a corner and waiting for the electric motor to kick in. The move to 100% sustainable fuels also means the sound of the Ferrari will change. It's a deeper, more industrial growl than the high-pitched screams of old, but that's the sound of progress. Ferrari's chemists have been working 247 with Shell to ensure the fuel's energy density is within 2% of current fossil fuels. If they can maintain that density while meeting the sustainability criteria, they'll avoid the power drop-off that some smaller teams are fearing. It's an all-in approach that shows Maranello isn't just building a car, they are building a legacy for the next decade. Looking at the broader trend, Ferrari's interpretation of the 2026 rules is a sophisticated blend of traditional mechanical strength and cutting-edge digital management. They aren't trying to reinvent the wheel with wild, unproven suspension geometries like Audi or Red Bull Ford might be. Instead, they are refining a solid pragmatic base and then overlaying it with the most advanced energy recovery system they've ever designed. It's a low-floor, high-ceiling engineering philosophy that should give them a very wide operating window across the 24 different tracks on the calendar. In conclusion, the SF26 isn't just a car, it's a manifesto. It tells us that Ferrari is no longer afraid to look outside of its own walls. Whether that's hiring a British champion, partnering with American tech giants like HP and Whoop, or using Cadillac as a live test laboratory, the technical data from the push rod stability to the steel cylinder durability points to a car that is built for the long game. They've traded the flashy pull rod aero gains for a robust, reliable platform that can be developed aggressively throughout the season. So, as we wait for the red and white car to roll out onto the tarmac at Furano on January 23rd, the question isn't whether it looks good. It clearly does, but whether the software can match the hardware. With the Cadillac data in their pocket and Hamilton's feedback in their ears, Ferrari looks more prepared for a regulation change than at any point since 2000. It's a new era, a new suit, and quite possibly a new king of the F1 jungle. And honestly, it's about time the prancing horse started galloping